Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the Herald's Horn. On this one, we are going to be talking about a cool modern 20K, these new Through the Omenpaths universe within versions of Universes Beyond Magic the Gathering sets, and well, that's it. I'm just kidding. Okay, we're going to be talking about the Commander ban list for a long time today, all the new stuff they rolled out this last Tuesday. It was pretty fresh when we recorded. Obviously, people have had a couple more days to chew on it now, but hey, we have a lot of stuff to say. Predictably, we always have a lot of stuff to say about any ban list update for any format. Without any other further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hello, it's time for the Herald's Horn, part of the One Shot Network. My name is Cal Jones, and today, as ever, I am joined by Emma. Say hello, Emma.
Hello, Emma.
As always, I am also joined by Dan. Say hello, Dan.
Hold on, I'm going to check the script to see what it says for me. Hello.
Yeah, you're not on the script.
It was a joke. They wouldn't have known.
The script says, today I'm joined by the wonderful Dan. Say hello, Emma. We have a whole lot of really excellent and exciting stuff to talk about today, so there's no time for banter. Let's run the song. And welcome back. We have a lot of news to cover, so as always, we are going to jump right into the news. But first, I want to thank our first chair patrons, that is Bald Rald, and our new patron since our last episode, Walker Crane. Thank you to those people and everyone else who supports us over on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon, you get some cool special content like cut sillies from almost every episode, bonus questions from almost every single guest going back for most of over the last year, and then also some occasional extra stuff like solo Cal podcasts, the forever promised, never materializing NFL podcast with Cal and Emma, and much more. So if that interests you, you can find the Patreon link in the podcast description, the YouTube description, wherever you're listening. Trust me, it will be there. All right, let's get into the news. First up, a little weird announcement that came out over the weekend. Blake Rasmussen with a pretty short blog post over on the mothership announcing this new thing called Through the Omenpaths. We have talked over and over and over again about what Wizards of the Coast will do about bringing universes beyond cards, aka all of the cards made with other intellectual properties such as Marvel, Final Fantasy, Fallout, etc., etc. What they will do when they need to be reprinted. We used to have a solution for this that was kind of cheekily called like Universes Within, or even officially called Universes Within, which saw the likes of the Street Fighter layer and the Stranger Things layer. Oh, Walking Dead. My bad. And Street Fighter and Walking Dead and Stranger Things cards getting treated as normal Magic the Gathering cards. And then they said they were stopping doing that. The place where they were putting it, which was the list, no longer exists. And Through the Omenpaths, upon the first blush of reading, seems like it could have been a solution, but it's not. What is Through the Omenpaths? Digital sets. Full digital sets that are universes within versions of Universes Beyond sets that otherwise would not be coming to digital platforms. So if for whatever reason Wizards of the Coast is not able to get the intellectual property to a digital card set version of their own physical card set that they will be making of someone else's IP, they are dedicating to making a full flavor and art swapped version of that set that will go onto Magic the Gathering Arena and Magic the Gathering Online. Notably, this is only for full sets that are legal in all formats, aka this is for standard legal Universes Beyond premium booster sets. So this will not be used to fix stuff retroactively like the Fallout in the 40K problem. So we're not going to immediately see some kind of Warhammer 40K treatment added onto Magic Online that is new characters. Maybe that'll change, maybe it won't. But the first set we will be seeing of this is a fully universes within version of Marvel's Spider-Man on September 23rd, because, well, I would assume that Second Dinner, the maker of Marvel Snap, has all of the rights that could ever be imagined to all Marvel characters concerning a digital card game. So, really funny that this is actually a thing to begin with, actually. Because we are going to get, they did confirm, Final Fantasy and Avatar The Last Airbender will just be in their full glory, full IP, normal sets, normal Universes Beyond sets will be on Magic Arena and Magic the Gathering Online. Probably because of Marvel Snap reasons, Marvel's Spider-Man will have to have a complete flavor swap to be put onto digital platforms. Funky?
Funky.
Yeah.
Emma, how do you feel about this as someone who is going to have to write about Magic the Gathering cards?
I do not know the SEO implications here. Like, I don't know how you do it. Yeah, it's
I hadn't
interesting.
even thought about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare. It's weird. I think the way Wizards have done it seems fine. It could have been a lot worse, let's be honest. I'm also surprised that this became a hurdle to begin with. So it just feels like something's happened somewhere internally, perhaps with Hasbro, where it's just like, we can't get the digital rights for Marvel, which, by the way, Marvel's going to be multiple sets. There's going to be multiple sets of Marvel coming at some point. So this is not the first instance of this is going to happen. So yeah, it's really interesting to see how they do it. Also, it's kind of cool in a way that digital players get to have the actual Magic experience. I'm air quoting for people who are listening, compared to tabletop, who has to, interact with these Spider-Man cards. So it's interesting, and I'm glad Wizards are doing something about it. I'm just surprised this wasn't a solution to begin with. Just because it seems like kind of obvious that, it's Marvel. I don't think they were ever going to give up the digital card rights, let's be honest, because it's Marvel. They have plenty of things, like, Marvel Snap being the main one here. So yeah, interesting. Curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, this is such a stupid problem, and this is such an egregious amount of work to fix it. It's funny that the solution to this problem is basically doing away with Universes Beyond and making Magic sets again.
Yeah, it feels like we're going round in gone full circle, and it's like we putting the Magic stuff in the Magic game now. It's like very weird, like deja vu happening here. But of course, like, I'm glad Wizards are like obviously acknowledging it. Leaving a lot of money on the table by not putting these sets on Arena. So sure, you're adding world building. The Warhost stuff's going to be particularly weird because these characters won't have any story. They will just be essentially placeholders. You're going to have placeholders of Spider-Man and Green Goblin and Venom and that. And, that kind of sucks, I guess. But the amount of work they've got to put in to put everything onto Arena, like get the artwork, get all the names and everything, it just seems so much effort. But
it's really wild. Yeah, it's cool for like legacy players and a lot of people who primarily play on Magic Online and stuff who are like. Yeah, like primarily these are the problems that they're trying to avoid, is like the situation where we had where in paper, Triumph of St. Catherine from the Warhammer 40k set was doing numbers in Legacy and paper, across the states, but there was just no supply of it online. Like literally at that point it hadn't made it online. So it was just like a deck archetype that was sort of non-existent, between the paper and the more common, honestly, at this point, digital legacy meta. So really glad that players are going to be able to get access to these, and also because they really hate the Universes Beyond stuff in general, so they get to play with their real Magic cards again, their real digital Magic cards again. It
wouldn't surprise me if we saw the Universes Within, air quoting here, cards in like a Mystery Booster free release. I wouldn't be surprised if Gavin tries to shoehorn them into like a Mystery Booster release, like he's done with Arena cards in Mystery Booster 2. There's some Arena exclusive cards that have very much come to tabletop in a way, as in you can buy physical cards of them printed by Wizards of the Coast. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens at some point. They'll put a feelers out in like a really supplemental set, not like a big supplemental set, but just something like Mystery Booster I could see at some point.
It is interesting. We have started to see a couple Universes Beyond cards, very specifically like some of the Fallout stuff, kind of start to trickle into Commander Precons and that kind of stuff as Universe Within, quote unquote, reprints. It hasn't been any like legendary creatures or anything like that, but a lot of I think we've seen like a 40k role player card and a Fallout kind of role player instant sorcery artifact, that kind of stuff, get reskinned, new art put into a commander deck already at this point. I think that maybe one of the advantages of them doing this is all of the investment that will like need to be done to reprint a card outside of Universes Beyond will kind of already be done. Like if they're looking to put insert card from Marvel's Spider-Man into another set, there very well may be, with a normal Universes Beyond card, there very well may be the conversation of, well, we'd have to do all new creative on it and we have to commission a new art piece and there's work there and all that kind of stuff. But if they've already done all that work for the Universe Within through the Omenpaths set, then it could just be that much easier for them to go, oh, cool. Yeah, they already have Blarb the Blarb, which is the functional reprint of Spider-Man card X. Yeah, let's just throw that in this precon or whatever, because we already have all the creative for it.
This gives Wizards a really, not necessarily cool, but it gives Wizards an opportunity to repackage these as secret layers.
That's also true, yeah. But yeah, Cal, that's a great point, because like thematically we have this discussion all the time of like, even that's the reason why you don't see Dragon Skull Summit reprinted as often as the other Checklands, because it is like a dragon themed thing that you can't just throw into any set, because people look at it and be confused and be like, why is Dragon Skull Summit in a the Jund Pyrogoyf precon or whatever?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how many of these we realistically do end up with. And to Emma's point, too, be interesting to see how much of it ends up in, say, a secret lair or something like that, too. To Emma's point, too, about what are these going to be like flavor-wise, I think there are maybe two big options. Number one, Magic the Gathering still has a whole flavor, et cetera, generating team that will still have to, they have to have something to do in these realms of Universe Beyond times. Obviously, they're working on those sets some, but maybe we have gotten a bit of that team's time to come up with flavor for these new legendaries that will be replacing Spider-Man, Venom, et cetera. Maybe we'll get some stories about them. Maybe not.
Maybe they will all be versions of Loot.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we'll get a Loot Spider-Man.
They're gonna.
Maybe Carrie Thomas, guest of the show, Vorthos Extraordinaire, they were hoping and speculating on Twitter that for some of them, we would maybe just get cards for characters that have never gotten cards before and that kind of stuff, which does also seem like a possibility. But I think the most interesting thing is here that this does feel like them introducing a very speculative technology to themselves. We know that we will be getting one Through the Omenpaths set. We can assume that we will probably be getting a Through the Omenpaths set for whichever of the remaining standard legal Marvel sets that we do end up with. But past that, who knows? Those could be the 2 to 3 Through the Omenpaths sets we ever get. Through the Omenpaths could eventually become the standard as they realize that more and more Magic the Gathering players want to play with quote-unquote real Magic the Gathering cards. They could quickly scrap it and end up paying out the nose for the digital rights to whatever they're doing, as it creates so much confusion around the standard format for people who jump in between digital and physical cards, or people who are trying to discuss the format more generalized online, that they decide to scrap it, and it's because it is a very imperfect solution in a lot of ways.
I am dreading of how to do this in content.
Like, just Spider-Man Webslinger / Blorb the Blorb.
It's like, how do you I feel that it's just going to be a mess. Like,
yep,
trying to cover like the competitive meta and things like that will be such a difficult task to overcome. I don't know. I don't know. I wonder if we default to like the paper Spider-Man names, or do we default to the online Magic names?
So me specifically will have to do the tabletop one because that's what TCG Player sells.
That's what you sell, yeah.
However, from like an SEO standpoint, do you mention both? Because somebody might look at the in Magic name instead of looking for a commander of the in Magic name, and it's actually Spider-Man. Like,
or I mean, even if you're right, you have good old Yeoman 5 writing many standard brews for TCG Player, or insert any other, Reed is writing about his latest standard deck or whatever. TCG Player, it is a paper focused website. So, assumedly, you would be writing about the paper cards, but a lot of the people reading those articles probably only play standard on Arena and need those, yeah. Good luck with that one, Emma. I feel for you, bestie.
I feel sort of blessed that, like, if they come up in CEDH, like, people will just be playing it in paper.
I also kind of feel sorry for, like, the commentators as well, because they have to know 2 different arts for the same card, but they're differently named. It's like... and it's a Spider-Man set as well, so it's like it's going to get a load of attention because it's a Marvel set. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to September. Just going to put it out
Reed
there.
Duke just cast stock up, aka a trip to Mary Jane's house.
Exactly. No, exactly. Okay. I think that's about all that there is to say about Through the Omenpaths. Interesting technology that Wizards of the Coast has invented for themselves. Honestly, crazy to me that, like, the IP, I mean, I get it, but crazy that the IP of Marvel is, like, so worth it that they have to go through this whole song and dance of basically getting art and creative for 2 whole sets of cards for 1 set. That is a big creative lift. Good job, creative team. I'm sure you did a good job. Good job pushing through on that one. Okay, the really big news of this week that we just spent 15 minutes talking about a weird little thing that I'm sure will be big news in September. But let's talk about the big news of this week. That is the Commander changes. All right, there's a lot of stuff to go through for the Commander update. It was really a lot of stuff out there to look at, consume, learn, because this was a very, very, very in-depth update for the Commander format panel. But much of it came from Gavin Verhey himself. There were 2 separate articles. One laying out the cards that were unbanned and why, and then also a very long article going a bit more in depth about the Commander format panel's current thoughts about the bracket beta. Many updates to the Game Changers lists, which we'll go through. They added a lot and they took 2 off. And then they also kind of went through a whole ton of cards. Like, we thought about taking this off the Game Changer list. We did not. Here's a whole bunch of cards that we did discuss about potentially adding, and we did not. Very interesting stuff. Also, some amount of discussion, I believe, about cards they thought about unbanning and did not. Also, a fairly extensive bit about, the elephant in the room, as you could say, of Dockside Extortionist, Mana Crypt, and Mana Jeweled Lotus. There we go. And then more beyond, because there was also a whole Good Morning Magic video from Gavin explaining all of this as well. And then, of course, there was an hour and long change episode of Weekly MTG featuring Blake Rasmussen, picking Gavin's brain about a whole bunch of different questions concerning all of the changes. So if you wanted to, you could spend a good 4 hours going through all of this stuff today. But lucky for you, someone already did, and that is me. So let's go ahead and we'll just talk through all the bullet points kind of individually here. Let's start with the unbans. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards unbanned today. We're going to talk about all 5 of them. Why not? unbans, notably, like we have said before, and as they have said before, the unbans all moved from the ban list to the game changer list. So for some of these, that could be a bit of a trial period where they're on the game changers list. Maybe go back to the ban list. Maybe go from the game changers list to being not a game changer. We'll see. But let's start at the top, and probably the biggest news of this I think this is the most powerful card on the list. Gifts Ungiven. It is 3 in a blue. It is an instant. Search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Put the chosen cards into your graveyard and the rest into your hand, then shuffle. So this is kind of an intuition that costs 1 more mana, and also you end up with 1 more card in your hand, which is kind of cool. But it is kind of weird to me that Gifts has been banned for so long when Intuition has been right there. I mean, Gifts Ungiven is technically maybe a more powerful card because there is another card involved in the equation, but it does also cost more mana. I do love the sick art that came from Signature Spellbook Jace. Super sick art. Of 2 Jaces, one offering like a gem and one offering some kind of scroll. I'll have to dig those out because, man, that card I have them around somewhere, and they have jumped from 22 cents to $20 on TCG Player in the last 4 hours.
Sounds about right. I think people have been buying up Jace's spellbooks as well because Gifts Ungiven was in the spellbook, and it was cheaper to buy one of them and get a gift, and then you also run the lottery getting a foil gift because the spellbooks have like a random foil. So and
some of the other foils in the Jace spellbook I think are still decent.
Blue Elemental Blast is a good one.
Yeah. So Gifts Ungiven, I mean, it's a powerful card, but it's just kind of a different version of a card that we already have had legal in the format if you've wanted to pony up the bucks for a reserve list card. So interested to see how widely this gets played. I don't think it's all that big of a deal outside of specifically the CEDH circles that it will obviously see some level of play in. How about Braid's Cabal Minion? Dan, could you read that for us, please?
Absolutely. Braid's Cabal Minion is 2 black for a legendary human minion. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or a land of their choice. That's a 2/2.
Braids is a card that I think really strikes me as like a maybe not a ban list candidate, but a great game changer candidate. Kind of a miserable card.
I have a fun fact about Braids.
What's that?
It was Reed Duke's first commander.
Oh, funny. That makes a lot of sense, though. Yeah, Jund King. Yeah, Braids is definitely, not a fun card to play against. I would argue that none of these cards are really all that fun to play against. But Braids I think definitely hits one of the points they made in the article of what they're considering when they're unbanning cards is whether or not people have nostalgia for either the cards themselves or the characters. And people do love Braids Cabal Minion. Not only the card, but also the character. But yeah, I think that there are enough fun applications of this card where it does seem like, I'm not surprised by this, I guess. In a world where we have Turgid, all of the Praetors, and all of the other being cards in Magic that do all sorts of horrible things, like Braids is annoying, but certainly not the worst of them all.
And I do really... I think I've said this before on the show, but I think this is one advantage of the Game Changers tech that I do like. Incidentally, if there's a legendary creature on the Game Changers list and you are going by the bracket system, if you want your commander to be a commander from the Game Changers list, that does at least automatically put you into bracket 3. And then if you're using, a game changer on your commander, that does immediately take a game changer of your possible 3 for bracket 3. And then also, if you're past 3, bracket 4, blah, 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 blah.
And importantly, there's no Jeweled Lotus, no Mana Crypt in this format anymore. Yep. So it's not as easy to get on turn 1. And I do think it just suffers the same fate as Turgid, where if you're playing this as your commander, people are like, okay, I'm going to kick your butt.
Yep.
Yeah, you're immediately the threat player. You're signing up for it.
1,000%. 1,000%. So I assume that Emma will be building this deck.
Nah, I'm not a big Braid. Yeah, it doesn't seem fun.
Come on.
I want to put her in the 99 of something. I think she seems fun, in a deck.
Does she see playing like Canadian Highlander? Because that's the language I speak.
Maybe she should. You can be the change that you would like to see, Emma.
You can Lotus that out on turn 1 in Canadian Highlander for sure.
That's where you can play Lotuses. Like
exactly. My points are Black Lotus and Braids Arisen Nightmare, which is 1 point now for some reason.
Braids is a point?
No.
Okay. I was like, zero respect for Canadian Highlander now. But now back to 1 point. Back to 1 point of respect for Canadian Highlander.
All right. At long last, Jim got his wish. I know this was one of the very first cards that he ever thought. He made an impassioned plea for this card to be unbanned because he thought it was ridiculous this card was banned. Emma, can you read Panoptic Mirror for us, please?
Yeah, so Panoptic Mirror is a 5-mana colorless artifact. It has imprint for X and tap. The imprint cost is you may remove an instant sorcery card with converted mana cost X in your hand from the game. The card becomes imprinted to the artifact. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may copy an imprinted instant or sorcery card and pay that copy without pay that copy without paying its mana cost. I'm going to be honest with you, not the biggest Commander person. I thought this was a weird ban, but I don't know why it was banned or what you play it with, just because I'm not entrenched into Commander.
Well, it was banned very quickly after it was printed. It was printed in February of 2004.
Yeah,
and it was banned in 2005. Which, yes, Commander has been around that long, but I could read you the ban reasoning. Panoptic Mirror's presence on the ban list serves to remind players that most things are fun in moderation. It was and it remains banned. Well, not remains. Because of the incidental, often accidental uses which lead to repetitive, boring games. Beyond the obvious extra turns combo, it's a trap for casual deck builders because it seems like a fun value engine. However, too many different 4+ mana spells when imprinted will grind the game to a halt. Wraths, Tutors, discard, even card draw can yield insurmountable advantage to lock up the game. I think that makes a lot of sense for 2005. I don't know so much about 2025.
I know our backup players are going to be screaming.
10 mana and 2 cards to take infinite turns is like you earned it in 2025 for sure. Yeah, like you cast your cards. I couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, 10 mana and 9 mana and recast a 4-drop. Okay, you got it.
Yeah, in a world of Braids, etc., that keep getting better all the time, a card like this, very easy thing to take off of the ban list.
Definitely agree. Not all that exciting. It kind of felt like one of the gimmies. I'm surprised it didn't come up in our conversation last week, but it does feel like one of the gimmies. Speaking of kind of one of the gimmies, Sway of the Stars coming off the ban list. 8 blue sorcery. Each player shuffles their hand, graveyard, and permanents they own into their library, then draws 7 cards. Each player's life total becomes 7. This is one of those cards that has, I think, understandably was banned for a very long time, in that this is one of those cards that just kind of say, hey, all the game up until this point, we're resetting it. And also each player's life total becomes 7. It's 10 mana. If people want to mess around with it, I don't care. I think that class of cards does, I think, settle very comfortably into the kind of game changer role, because Sway of the Stars, 10 mana, that's a lot of mana, but only a very specific subsection of people I think are going to want to play with this card. I think it does have some like cool niche uses you could probably mess around with if you really wanted to. Same with Worldfire when they unbanned it years ago now. But kind of feels like whatever. Sure, clean up the ban list, get that out of here, go to town.
Yeah, ultimately, like, you can spend 10 mana on this card, but it is a really hard card to cast and then win the game because you have resolved it. Which, like you said, at that point, at the point you're spending 10 mana on a spell like this, like, why is it on the ban list? Like, sure, it's a little bit boring and stuff, but I guess Cyclonic Rift haters be damned, because that stuff is never going on the ban list, I guess, if Sway of the Stars gets to come off. Annoyance is okay.
Yep, I agree. And also, one of those cards that's been banned for a really long time that always kind of had people rolling their eyes a little bit. Coalition Victory. 3 and Wooburg, 1 of each color. Sorcery. You win the game if you can control a land of each basic land type and a creature of each color. Pay 8 mana, win the game. admittedly, this is, I think, these days a pretty easy thing to fulfill. Triomes exist. So with 2 lands, you can very easily have all 5 of the basic land types. A creature of each color. 5 color creatures exist. 3 color and 2 color creatures exist. Leyline of the Guild Pact exists, which I think would be a very funny way to win the game. Which makes all your non-land permanents you control, all colors, and lands you control, every basic type. But I have been a long time proponent of, if you can pay 8 mana, that's probably fine to win the game. And the difference in between paying a ton of mana for something like a Craterhoof Behemoth and something like Coalition Victory does not seem that different to me.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's a fairly negligible difference.
Also, the 20 ways to win Commander Precon now has another win con. Congrats, guys.
Got to put Coalition, slot that Coalition Victory.
Yeah. I mean, Cal, everything you said about why it was banned before, or why it was banned, like, recently, is all the reasons why it was banned a bunch of years ago. Like, the 5 color commanders just exist. If you have one on board, you likely have, like, your dual lands or your shock lands or whatever to be able to cast it. But yeah, like, what is the big difference between casting this and a Craterhoof Behemoth? I think extremely little.
Well, one of them, requires you to have just one creature in play. Thoughts?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, at that point, Swords to Plowshares is in every precon now. Like, the technology is
we
just
have
there
the technology. It's called Arcane Denial. So those are the unbans. I think Sans, like, kind of braids and Gifts Ungiven feel like the ones here that could be described as a little, like, quote unquote risky, in that Gifts Ungiven is just a pretty dang powerful card and braids has a potential to be a pretty dang miserable card. But otherwise, I think as far as these unbans go, especially compared to, like, the conversation we were having last week, Dan, these changes are pretty tame.
Feels like Gavin and the CFP are just doing some cleanup and just tidying up the ban list, because you have this cool tool in the game changes now, which it kind of acts like a stopgap between both, from banned and unbanned. So it means you can just try some more stuff out. Also, because of the nature of Commander and how many people play it and how popular it is, you can really slow roll this, so you don't have to hit bans changes every 2 months. You can just take your time and collate all this data. So yeah, you want to start with the stuff that may seem less impactful, although Gifts Ungiven is clearly quite strong. Braids has a history, so it'll be interesting to see how those play out for the rest of the year.
Yep, I definitely agree myself. I think, like, of all of the things that could happen here, like, it feels like this is very much testing the waters to see how the whole unbanning cards to game changers works. Don't want to knock the boat too much because they're still really kind of beta testing the bracket and game changer system anyways. Do some pretty requested stuff in specifically Gifts Ungiven and Braids, and then clean up some weirdness in Sway of the Stars, Panoptic Mirror, and Coalition Victory. And man, speaking of the Game Changer list, big changes to the Game Changer list. We've gone up to 61 or 62 cards onto it now. We were talking last week that I already thought the list was kind of big. Well, hey, now it's huge. But hey, there's a lot of Magic the Gathering cards out there. New Game Changers: Teferi's Protection, Humility, Narset Parter of Veils, Intuition, hey, speak of the devil, Consecrated Sphinx, Necropotence, Orcish Bowmasters, Notion Thief, Deflecting Squat, Gamble, Worldly Tutor, Crop Rotation, Seedborn Muse, Natural Order, Food Chain, Aura Shards, Field of the Dead, and Rishra's Workshop. I think all of this very much tracks to me, especially the green section finally getting actually filled out with the powerful green cards. The green section of the original list was so funny to me because I looked at it and I was like, where's Worldly Tutor? Where is Natural Order? Natural Order is a spell you cast to win the game with. Where is Natural Order? Why do we have Survival of the Fittest on here and not Natural Order? Well, here's Natural Order. Why don't we have the enchantment that wins the game in Food Chain with a bag of chips? Oh, here it is. Okay. We finally got there. They filled out the rest of the one CMC tutors by putting on Gamble and Worldly Tutor. And then we finally, it kind of seems we've added in all of the like hating on draw cards in Narset, Con Sphinx, Orcish Bowmaster, and Notion Thief. And then, of course, Humility is a card you never want to see resolve against you. Teferi's Protection, sure, whatever. A powerful card. I don't know if I would really clock it per se as a game changer, more or less, but I don't know. All these cards make a ton of sense to me. I get it.
Yeah, the only one that I sort of was like, when I saw it was Aura Shards. It's a very powerful effect, but I think I sort of feel similarly to how you feel about Teferi's Protection, where like I don't think that spell in and of itself is the most powerful, but I guess I do sort of agree with the philosophy that like when I see that in a deck, I'm like, oh, okay, you're not playing a budget deck at least.
Yeah. I think Aura Shards can be kind of weird because it is a deck that it's a card that pretty much says like, all right, any artifact or enchantment you were excited about or hoping to have,
it literally changes the game because it changes how the other 3 players play their enchantments and artifacts going forward.
That's fair.
So it changes the texture in a way that isn't common, but is also really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did take 2 cards off of the list, Trouble in Pairs and Trinisphere. Trouble in Pairs was a card that I personally was always kind of confused by because I was like, this just doesn't really feel like it hits the power level a lot of the other cards here. And then Trinisphere, interesting card for them to remove. They talked about the rationale a little bit, and the rationale was like, they are also kind of working to not put cards that have the... I believe Josh Lee Kwai would call it the cousin problem, in that when you see Trinisphere on the list, you say, oh, well, where's Winter Orb? And that kind of stuff too. Trinisphere, though, game changer card, but
yeah.
Interesting.
I guess my question is like, how much play does Trinisphere really see? Like I only see it in CDH, which I'm sure is not the only place it shows up, but I just haven't seen it personally in a casual environment before.
Though I assume Emma plays it in all of her casual decks.
It's true. Great for the Mole God.
I'm just I don't know. I'm just here to accuse Emma of doing every single terrible thing that she could in casual EDH.
Yeah, huge braids lover. Sure. Turgrid got a huge Turgrid tattoo on her bicep.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, turn 1 braids, turn 2 Trinisphere, go. That is Emma's dream.
Turn 3 upkeep, sack my Trinisphere.
Turn 3 upkeep, sack my swamp, you know?
Yeah, there you go. All right.
You're stuck in here with me.
Now look at my cool tattoo. I can make it wiggle.
Oh, man. So, big shakeup in the Game Changer realm, adding in plenty more, so much more of a fleshed out list. And then they did some kind of talking about the brackets themselves. They said they had a lot of discussion around some of the maybe changing of the official wording that they use around the brackets and all of that kind of stuff. And they said that those formal changes are probably coming eventually, but not right now. Commander moves slowly. They feel as if they're still very much in the phase of like helping people learn about how brackets work in the first place, helping people learn that brackets exists in the first place. And since it is all still in beta, they're still tweaking. You know, they just did a huge overhaul of the Game Changers list. Let's leave the brackets alone for now. And they really Gavin really re-emphasized in his article and in his video, intent is the most important part of the bracket system. If you try to, like, not his exact words, but if you try to gamify the bracket system to make the most technically inside of a bracket deck, that will just stomp other people or create bad gameplay experiences or whatever and say, oh, ho, here's my bracket 3 deck. You are a bad actor. Bad actor was the exact words used by Gavin in the article. I did really appreciate that. And they did two other really, one smaller big piece of news, one big piece of news. Speaking of safe, they are they're aiming to take brackets in the Game Changer list officially out of beta by the end of the year. And then they also did say that barring some kind of disastrous situation, they will not make any more ban list changes until at least next year. So it seems that this ban list change is kind of the experiment of, all right, let's do something a little safe, a little risky, a little safe. See how it goes with the ban list, changing the ban list, and then let's spend the rest of the updates the rest of the year massaging the Game Changer list, maybe changing up some of the brackets themselves, and then moving on in 2026 with perhaps this being the formal Commander system. That kind of makes sense to me.
I think my favorite thing about the whole announcement, I recommend reading the articles because Gavin's a very good writer. He's very good at like explaining things in a way that anyone from any background can understand. My favorite part about the article that just talks about like the game changes and stuff, he talks about the something called the NITTY contingency, which is if a card comes about that is clearly very powerful and needs to be emergency banned, they have a contingency plan in place, and they're using NITTY Wind Wisdom as kind of like as a token for that plan. And I just thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this announcement, with these changes. I think it's a great way to have your first approach to these ban announcements from this new committee. It's very light. I don't think it's going to change the day-to-day experience of most Commander players. And for the people who enjoy the cards that were unbanned, they're going to be super stoked. So I think it's as good as it really can be for most people without like really doing anything at all.
Considering what happened 6 months ago, this is great.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's a huge part of this too, is that like anyone who is like clamoring for like the dockside extortionist, etc. unbans, like you're out of your mind. What do you think? Like you think this new group of people who have already, I know because I am Louis Stardust's like personal friend, have been harassed relentlessly online. Like this is true of every single person on this committee. Like there's no way that they're going to make some sort of big sweeping changes right out of the gate. I think that this is really like as perfect as it gets. Except for the fact that they did not unban balance.
I know you're really pulling for that one, bud.
I have been bullying Lua relentlessly.
Lua, I know. Speaking of Lua, actually, I think that maybe one of the things that I'm not going to say suffers, because I think the people who are caterwauling about this a whole lot are, I don't buy it. But the thing that maybe quote unquote suffers from this change and the ban list announcement and all that kind of stuff a little bit is CDH. The spot the CDH is in right now is like not excellent. It's super mid-rangey. Everyone just casts Ristic Study and prays. But someone did ask basically an exact question to Gavin on the stream, and he did answer it. They pretty much asked like, hey, what about CDH? It's not in a great place right now. And Gavin did pretty much say that, like, we know that CDH is a little mid-rangey right now. We know it's not an awesome spot, but, you know, we're trying to iron out the thing that is for explicitly the vast majority of EDH players. Makes sense. And it is something on his and their mind, and it's something that we can talk about in the future. He did align it to, like, Flash. You know, he did very explicitly say, like, there is a precedent of CDH kind of getting its own bans. And even though I think the current format committee at the time did say this is a one-time thing, you know, we're in a new era. CDH is an official bracket on the list. So if I would imagine if they can find a way to kind of snip something out of CDH that won't affect a lot of EDH all that much in the future, they may do that. He did also defer. He pretty much said, hey, go, if you're wondering where the thought process is on this stuff, I would look to the reactions of Lua, Deco, and Rebel, where some of the people that he pointed to, he did shout out pretty much like the CDH adjacent and CDH involved people who are on the format panel. He said, go talk to them. So I thought that it was interesting to see them answer a question specifically about CDH during the stream, that kind of stuff. But overall, this positively and negatively, this announcement does not affect CDH very much. And in that vein, I think one of the bigger news pieces here, what that wasn't, nothing came off the list, nothing came on the list, specifically Mana Crypt, Dockside, and Jeweled Lotus. Gavin did have a section in his article specifically about those three cards. He did say they did discuss them pretty extensively. The TLDR is that Mana Crypt and Dockside are in the hole. I don't think we'll be seeing those cards anytime soon. And Jeweled Lotus, a little more of a soft spot for that one. Gavin did say, it has an iconic analog. It is specifically only playable in Commander. Some of that kind of stuff. And then we all know that Wizards of the Coast would love for that card to be unbanned so that they could reprint one of their highest value Commander specific cards in Commander related products. But he reiterated that we would not be seeing any change whatsoever on that front until at least 2026. So pretty big news there. But also, I think kind of what I did say on the last episode, what I anticipated would happen. I think Jeweled Lotus is the softie of the three and that we will probably never see Mana Crypt and Dockside again. And I think I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think most likely outcome is that, and I think I said this last week, that there's also the possibility that they try to make a different kind of Jeweled Lotus that they can print in these sets.
And it makes 4 mana for your commander.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw someone online speculate you can make like a Jeweled Lotus that has a really high CMC but gets reduced for the CMC of your commander or something like that, so that it doesn't have the same
that
problem.
That would be my dream.
I know,
oh
exactly.
My gosh,
yeah,
that'd be so sick. Because
Gavin did shout out in the article, it's like, it helps to power out the more expensive commanders, which is true, but it also helps power out the really cheap ones too. There's nothing stopping that. So yeah, as some sort of fixed version, I would be really keen about, I think, in certain senses. A Jeweled Lotus in and of itself, I think, is so egregiously powerful. I'm very glad to see it gone, and I hope stays gone.
Fair points all. All right. That's enough about Commander. We said so much about Commander, and we have been running for so long. But first, let's take it on over to a little bit of Constructed Corner. Welcome to the Constructed Corner, the part of the show where we talk about constructed Magic the Gathering, allegedly. There was an awesome Modern event this last weekend, the Laughing Dragon Modern 20K 8-slot regional championship qualifier. So the top 8 people, or, people who were already full up on invites will pass down, blah, 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 blah. 8 invites to the regional championship on the line here. This is the first big look we've gotten at a post-Tarkir and also post-ban Modern. It featured 227 players, and it had a lot of really cool decks, but I think there was one big breakout card from the weekend. Emma, what was that?
Is it Corey Steelcutter?
It is so sick. I'm going to read the whole rules text here really quick. Corey Steelcutter, 1 in a red, artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and haste. It does have the flurry mechanic like Emma said. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess. You may attach this equipment to it. And it also has equip cost of 1 in a red. So, anyone remember Monastery Mentor? What if it was cheaper, harder for you to remove? Obviously not better, because it only can trigger once per turn, and you have to jump through a little bit more of a hoop. But man,
but it gets better with copies like Mentor does.
I know.
It's not legendary.
It's not 2015 anymore. We can't be relying on such archaic technology as Monastery Mentor.
As restricted in vintage Monastery Mentor.
Yeah, no, trash card. Get a new one in here, unrestricted.
But Corey Steelcutter is basically a 3 mana spell when you think about it, because you want to play that second spell after the cutter, which is probably like a cantrip or a burn spell, just to get that prowess token.
Gosh.
But yeah,
you get the prowess token, and then this equips to it. It's a 2/2 with trample and haste, so you can swing with it immediately. If you have 4 mana, you can trigger the prowess and make it bigger. Ooh.
It's really good with stuff like Torch the Tower in Standard, which is seeing a lot of play as well. And it's just like, the card seems really sweet. And I just checked on TCG Player. The Corey Steelcutter is more expensive than Craterhoof Behemoth at the time of recording, which is bonkers to think about considering we've been talking about Craterhoof Behemoth as like this 8-mana win condition in Commander. It got reprinted in Tarkir's Dragonstorm, but this rare artifact is basically the same price, if not more. And the ceiling on that card has not been hit yet, in my opinion. So,
yep. This Modern 20K was taken down by player Benny Z, playing in Is It Prowess deck, which definitely does look to me to be all in on maximizing basically Corey Steelcutter and also to some extent Slickshot Show Off. It has 4 Dragon's Rage Channeler, 4 Monastery Swiftspear AO, 3 Slickshot Show Off. For those of you who don't remember, that is a 2-drop 1/2 with Flying and Haste that gets +2/+0 until end of turn whenever you cast a non-creature spell. Obviously, it has 4 Corey Steelcutter. It also has 4 Mishra's Bauble, a free can-tripping artifact. Yep, that's a great second spell to cast. That's a great prowess trigger to cast. That's a great thing to trigger your Slickshot Show Off and your Monastery Swiftspear, and to trigger your Surveil triggers on your Dragon's Rage Channeler, and it's great for your Delirium on your Dragon's Rage Channeler, and it's great for the Delirium on your 3 of Violent Urge. That's an instant from Duskmourn. Target creature gets +1/+0 and first strike, but if you have Delirium, it gets double strike. Gross. Who needs like Dan said, it's no longer 2015. Teamer Battle Rage, get out of here. We have Violent Urge to give our creatures double strike now. 4 Lava Dart that deals 1 damage to a creature or player, and you can flash it back by sacrificing a mountain. Blah. 4 Lightning Bolt. Blah. 4 Mutagenic Growth. Blah. Man, Mutagenic Growth. Oh, cast my Mutagenic Growth. Target my Slickshot Show Off. Trigger my Corey Steelcutter. Shove. Are you even alive anymore? I don't know. And then you also just, you get to play 4 Preordained and 4 Expressive Iteration, so you can find every single card you could ever need at any time. And it only plays 18 lands. This deck is so sick, and I hate it so much at the same time. It's so dumb.
It's also under $400. Thereabouts right now anyway. So.
I was going to say, and most of that is the playset of Corey Steelcutters, probably.
Than the mana base, yeah.
Yeah. Also really sick deck. A lot of sick decks kind of up and down the list here, but second place, Devin Straub. Jeskai Affinity. Turns out that there still is a home for Mox Opal, Tamiyo, Mox Amber decks here in this format. This deck has 4 Emery, 4 Tamiyo, 3 Kappa Cannoneer, 3 Thought Monitor, a bunch of artifacts, including, Mishra's Bauble, Portable Hole, Mox Amber, Mox Opal. You get to play a playset of Thoughtcast. This is kind of just Legacy 8-cast, but in Modern now. It's not that much different. That's kind of nuts. The lists are not that... I'm looking over the list here, having been an 8-cast enjoyer in the recent memory, and all this is missing is the weirdo 1-drop from Kamigawa, which has probably just been replaced by Tamiyo at this point anyways.
Yeah, because Tamiyo makes artifacts when she attacks, so it's like...
What? It gets the flip if you cast Thoughtcast. How about that?
Yeah, it's pretty good. This is like Azorius splashing red for Whip Flare and Wear and Tear on the sideboard, just because Boros Energy's on the uptick. But this looks really sweet. It's really cool to see a Mox Opal deck that isn't busted, but just good, or it just seems good right now. It's just cool to see how, New Modern is shaping up. We've had a ban in Underworld Breach, and
And this deck does also get to play 4 Urza Saga. I feel like a real Affinity deck is about as good as an Urza Saga deck will ever get in Modern. This is the deck that you do probably every turn want to do the classic Urza Saga of like, play my Urza Saga. On turn 2, I will use my whole turn to make a 4/4. On turn 3, I will use most of my turn to make a 5/5. And then I will search up this Lava Spur Boots, or this Shadow Spear, or this Tormod's Crypt, whatever is relevant at the time. My Mox Opal to fix for red to cast my Whip Flare. And my dudes are just huge. I have 2 6/6s, and all I did was play a land and pay some mana. What a great play pattern.
And beyond that, you've got a whole deck around it. You've got
exactly. You have a bunch of other really good cards too.
And you have Kappa Cannoneer that has Ward 4.
Yep.
Ew.
Nice time walk, bro.
Ew.
Come on. But yeah, Modern seems pretty fun right now. It does seem that like Boros Energy is probably the best deck to play right now, just because it was really good pre Mox Opal Unbanned / Underworld Breach Team of Breach metagame. And it also has Voice of Victory, which was a breakout card from the weekend, because you just play 2 to 4 copies of that. Mobilize plays really well with Goblin Bombardment, as Boros Energy's basically a tokens deck with Modern Horizons cards. So it just fits in really nicely there, while also, you know, being a grand abolisher, basically. So,
like you said, the rest of the event, like there was some really cool kind of breakout cool decks, like this Affinity deck, a couple different, is it Prowess Pilots, but kind of looking down the list, it was kind of a lot of what you maybe would have expected pre-Tarkir to see. There was a lot of Boros Energy. There's a lot of Eldrazi Ramp. The primetime players showed up and they did well because they're the primetime players. So kind of an expected spread, plus some really cool new wrinkles put in by Corey Steelcutter, put in by Voice of Victory. Cool to see Tarkir cards immediately making an impact on Modern. It's not also, every day that you get to see that kind of stuff.
Also, the new Ugin Eye of the Storms saw playing some of the Eldrazi decks. There was an Eldrazi Tron deck during that weekend that did okay, that had like, I think it ran like a playset the new Ugin, because you just don't play Khan Liberated anymore because it's not 2012, 2015 anymore. So, or however long ago Phyrexia was.
And I think that's about all we have for this episode of the Herald Torn podcast. But as always, Emma, Dan, do you have anything else to leave our listeners with before we go? Emma, why don't you go first?
Play Oblivion, because that's out today. I guess that's the thing. Buy some horse armor.
The premium version of the remaster, remake, whatever, does come with 2 horse armors. I did see that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dan, what about you?
Same old. Watch Crybabies, listen to our podcast, rate it 5 stars. Thank you for listening. I appreciate all of you, but especially our patrons.
And for me, I will say 2 things. Play the video game Blueprints. It's insane. It's awesome. You'll love it. Made by a Magic the Gathering community member, interestingly enough. The owner of Mythic Spoiler has been pumping all of his Mythic Spoiler money for the last 8 years into developing a video game. And it is, I'll say it right now, it's the next indie darling. You will see it in all the conversations for the Game of the Year stuff next year. But it is also a game with a lot of cool secrets. It does feel very Myst puzzle-ish meets weird roguelike deck builder, because it is kind of a weird roguelike deck builder. You are drafting a house. You enter a house. The house layout changes every day. When you come to a door, it gives you 3 different room options. It could be the office, and in the office, the office will always have a door on the left, and it'll give you a key. And then in the next room, you have to like make sure to not box yourself in, because if you can't advance anymore, you have to end the day. So if you can't make it all the way through the house without before, and there's different resources you have to manage, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, but on top of being a really slick, kind of addictive roguelike deck builder adjacent, very inspired game, it also has a lot of really cool overarching puzzly elements that I am really enjoying. So if you're looking for a game to play, I would heavily recommend the Blueprints. It is on if you have Game Pass, or if you have one of the upper tiers of whatever the Game Pass equivalent of PlayStation is. It is on both of those. So you can play it without paying any more money. And it, of course, is on Steam as well. I will probably literally just buy it on Steam. I'm playing it on the PlayStation Game Pass equivalent, but I'll probably just buy it on Steam just to give this guy some money, because the game is sick. So, and my number 2 thing, that's my plug for a video game. I don't usually talk about whatever I'm doing on here, but I'm enjoying that so much. Just going to say that. Number 2, we will see you back here on Tuesday. I will be joined by Tom Marks, the review editor for IGN. He has been on bonus content before, but he's never actually been a guest on the show. I'm going to pick his brain a little bit about covering Magic from a more institutional angle. And he also literally just hit me up because he said he had a lot of opinions about Through the Omenpaths, both covering and related. So I think it'll be an interesting conversation. See you back here on Tuesday for that. And of course, we will see you here next Thursday. I assume it'll be Dan and me. I know Emma will not be able to make it next week, but hey, we'll see you back here next Thursday. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have feedback, would like to sponsor us, or would like to submit something to the Letters to the Editor segment, email me at editorial@heraldtorn.com. The show is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Cal Jones. The rest of the team is, of course, our co-hosts, Emma Partlow, Dan, better known as Moderately Anonymous MTG, and Lexi, better known as Black Girl Mage. We're having so much fun making this show. I hope you're enjoying listening to it. We'll see you next week.